坐低先，坐低先。你齊啦嘛？你齊啦。
All right, everybody's here. Okay, let's resume our meeting. We are now on item 4. Item 111KA, Government Institution and Community Facilities in the Kwun Tong Town Centre redevelopment, additional medical and health facilities. So it's a public works program item, and if members are agreeable, I propose that this item be taken up together with item 5, number 163 TB part, Kwun Tong Town Centre redevelopment, provision of grade separated pedestrian linkages, Yuen Wah Street pedestrian linkage, as the two items are both part of the Kwun Tong Town Centre redevelopment. So, is there any objection? If not, then the two items will be taken up together. And we have got government officials here with us, and the list has been tabled before members, and therefore I do not propose to introduce them one by one. May I invite the administration to walk us through the papers, and the administration will be making a PowerPoint presentation. So please be brief and precise. Yes, thank you, Chairman. We are now seeking member support for the proposal to upgrade the two PWP items, item 111KA and also 163 TB part. And both are located in Kwun Tong Town Centre, but then they are not part of the URA project, but then as the projects are to tie in with the URA redevelopment, in particular 111A with regard to the additional medical and health facilities, and the redevelopment and reprovisioning site is mostly located at the URA Yuen Wah Street site, and because of the redevelopment, there is a need for us to reprovision the Kwun Tong Jockey Club Health Centre at Yuen Wah Square, and we're doing this on a one-to-one basis. In other words, the facilities of the health centre will be provided at the Kwun Tong Road, Ho Yuen Road roundabout, and also the Yuen Wah Street site. And for the Kwun Tong Road, Ho Yuen Road roundabout is going to be used for the reprovisioning of the methadone centre of the D of H, as is expected that with regard to the increasing demand for health services, this redevelopment project provides a very good opportunity for us to take the opportunity to increase the floor area and also the relevant facilities in order to strengthen the existing services. So that's under 111KA, and these are the additional facilities that we are going to provide. As regards 163 TB part, the provision of grade separated pedestrian linkages, Yuen Wah Street pedestrian linkage, that would be connected to Kwun Tong Road and also the MTRCL link, and would be providing a barrier-free access to the residents of Kwun Tong, and also for the relocated Kwun Tong Yitwa Street Health Center, there would be a more convenient linkage. And in a moment, Mr. Hung will be doing a PowerPoint presentation. He will walk you through the details of the two projects and also the expected completion date. With regard to 111KA, the additional medical and health facilities for Kwun Tong Town Center redevelopment, we also have representatives from the relevant departments, the DFH, and also the CEDD, so members can put questions to them later. All right, I'll defer to Mr. Norman Hung, Project Manager of the CEDD. Yes, Chairman, I'll be doing a very brief PowerPoint presentation. Well, as you can see, the item is 111KA. That's the Kwun Tong Town Center redevelopment, and this is the GIC site, and we're going to provide additional medical and health facilities. The purpose of the paper is to seek members' support for the proposal to upgrade 111KA to Cat A, so that we'll be able to tie in with the reprovisioning of the existing medical and health facilities of the Kwun Tong Jockey Club Health Center, and we're going to take the opportunity to increase the floor area in order to strengthen the existing medical and health services. As members are aware, the URA is now redeveloping the Kwun Tong Town Center on a phased or at a stage on a stage program in order to improve the living environment and also the Kwun Tong Town Center's environment. And the purpose is to enable government departments to upgrade the existing medical and health facilities currently provided by the Kwun Tong Jockey Club Health Center. A bit of the background. Well, the background for this is under the Kwun Tong Town Center redevelopment at the main site. In a moment, we'll be able to see the layout plan in a moment. And there is a need for us to relocate the existing Kwun Tong Jockey Club Health Center and its facilities in order to vacate the site for the redevelopment of the main site. And the URA is responsible for the one-for-one reprovisioning of the existing medical and health facilities of the KTJCHC. As you can see from the diagram here, that's the layout plan for the Kwun Tong Town Center. For the yellow part is the main site, and to its south, we have the Kwun Tong Road, and then to its east we have Hip Wall Street, and then to its west we have Hong Ling Road, and then and then the blue part is the Yitwa Street site, and it's at the junction of Yitwa Street and Hip Wall Street. And for the green part is the existing Kwun Tong Jockey Club Health Center, and the URA has a responsibility to reprovide the medical and health facilities of the Jockey Club Health Center. And as Ms. So just said, some of the facilities will be located at the Yitwa Street site, and for the methadone clinic, it will be relocated to the Kwun Tong MTR station, and there is a vacant site there. In other words, that's at the junction or roundabout of Kwun Tong Road and Hoi Yun Road.
Well, if I may talk about the scope of Project 111KA, would like to take this opportunity to provide additional medical and health facilities. For the net operational floor area, there will be an addition of 1,087 meters square. In a moment, I'm going to give you the breakdown as to how the 1,087 meters square will be distributed. And of course, there will be the ancillary facilities and furniture to be additionally provided. As to why we would like to add to the medical and health facilities, mention has been made in the paper. In the coming years, the population in Kwun Tong will continue to rise, and then the number of elders in the district will also continue to increase. So it means that there is a growing need for medical and health services. Therefore, we would like to take this opportunity to provide additional medical and health facilities, and then we can meet the expectation of the community for quality living. And then the redevelopment, or rather the reprovisioning of the medical and health facilities, will be completed end of 2013 and beginning 2014. So our project will tie in with that reprovisioning work. Now from this table, you can have a view of the health facilities at the Kwun Tong Jockey Club Health Center. We have an occupational health clinic and occupational safety and health center belonging to the Labor Department, occupying 338 meters square, and then a general outpatient clinic of the Hospital Authority occupying about 1,000 meters square, and then the maternal and child health center and government dental clinic of the Department of Health occupying 1,064 meters square, and then the methadone clinic occupying 106 meters square. As to the following table, it shows what is suggested under 111KA, that is the additional NOFA. So for the Labor Department's occupational health clinic and an OSHC, 250 meters square. For the GOPC, an addition of 621 meters square. For the MCHC and the GDC, 188 meters square. Methadone clinic, 20 meters square. A total of over 1,000 meters square, that is 1,087 meters square. As to our budget, we have been looking at the construction costs as well as the furniture costs. The total will be $105 million MOD. Public consultation. The URA, in relation to the redevelopment of Kwun Tong Town Center, including the reprovisioning and addition of medical and health facilities, they approached the Kwun Tong District Council and has already secured the support of the District Council. As to the future methadone clinic at the Hong Kong MTR station, again, the Town Planning Board's statutory planning approval has been obtained. A word on the environmental implications. We are not going to increase the additional floor area, and in terms of land resumption or job creation, there won't be any implications. We would like to secure our support, and then in the beginning of 2013, we would like to go to the PWSC for funding approval, to be followed by the FC endorsement. Once we secure the funding, then round about April or March 2013, we will commence the procurement procedures, mainly for the sake of furniture and other facilities. And then we hope that end of 2013 or beginning of 2014, we can complete it together with the reprovisioning of the medical and health facilities. Please also walk us through the other paper. Yes, please walk us through this second paper as well. Yes, if I may also talk about 163 TB part. This is also to tie in with the Kwun Tong Town Center redevelopment. We are talking about the Yuen Wah Street pedestrian linkage. The purpose of this paper is to seek your support for the proposal to upgrade part of 163 TB Kwun Tong Town Center redevelopment, so as to enhance the connectivity. From this plan, you can see, which is the same as the last one, the yellow part is the URA main site for Kwun Tong Town Center redevelopment. The blue one is the Yuen Wah Street development site. To tie in with the redevelopment, under 163 TB, we propose to have 3 grade separated pedestrian linkages. So the dotted lines and the arrows. The red one is the Yue Hua Street pedestrian linkage. The purpose is to link Yue Hua Street and Kwun Tong MTR station. The second one is shown in green. There's Hip Wall Street. It crosses Hip Wall Street, is near to Mut Hua Street. And then another one crosses Hong Ling Road. It's a subway. For 163 TB part, we are focusing on the red one, that is the Yue Hua Street pedestrian linkage. The purpose is to respond to the expectation of the public concerning an improvement in the quality of living. We would like to improve the linkage between the redevelopment of Kwun Tong Town Center and its vicinity. We want to improve the vehicular flow. We want to have a synergy effect so as to expedite the regeneration of the district, and would like to provide a barrier-free access so that the citizens, in particular the elders and the disabled, will benefit. In a moment, I will show you on the map. What we want to provide is as follows: a 60-meter long and 4-meter wide elevated covered footbridge, and a 50-meter long and 4-meter wide at grade covered pedestrian walkway, and some ancillary works, so as to have a barrier-free access between Yue Hua Street and Kwun Tong MTR station. So you see Yue Hua Street in the top, and then currently we have a flight of 180 steps between Yue Hua Street and the MTR station in Kwun Tong. So in the upper section, we would like to have an elevated covered footbridge, the yellow part, so that there will be a barrier-free access to Lift Tower 1 as indicated in the map. For Lift Tower 1, it means that citizens can use Lift Tower 1 to go to the Hip Wall Street sitting out area. And then further down, you have the blue part is the covered pedestrian walkway, and that will take you to exit or entrance D2 of Kwun Tong MTR station. It will much facilitate the elders and the disabled. And then near to exit D2, we have Lift Tower 2. Currently, at this point, we have a flight of steps, and they will be demolished, and we're going to put in a lift tower so as to provide a barrier-free access. It shows the staircase with over 180 steps. We went there to have a site visit, and day in and day out, residents have to go up and down. Quite a tiring journey. And this is the artist's impression, and you can see that for the one in the middle, the taller structure, this Lift Tower 1, and you have the covered pedestrian footbridge, which is covered, and then further down you have the covered pedestrian walkway going to the MTR station. And then for this one, it shows the lift tower that will replace the existing staircase at exit D2 of the MTR station. This one shows you the future elevated covered footbridge. You see that we'll try to have a lot of greenery, and we'll use the natural daylight, and we hope that we will be minimizing the environmental impact. Next, this is Lift Tower 1, where we have the covered footbridge, which is elevated. You can take the Lift Tower 1, and then you can go to Hip Wall Street Rest Garden. Our estimate is that the budget will be 95 million Hong Kong dollars. As far as public consultation is concerned, we have consulted the Kwun Tong District Council and we have secured the support for the Roads, Works, Use and Compensation Ordinance. We have already gazetted the proposed works under that piece of legislation. We haven't received any objections. The proposed project doesn't belong to the designated projects under the Environmental Impact Assessment Ordinance. The negative environmental impact is unlikely to happen, and we are going to introduce and implement standard pollution control measures during the construction period. Impact on trees, the impact will be light, and we would take away 11 trees, felling down 2 and then transplanting 9. They are not of particular value. We are going to plant 3 trees, 50 shrubs, as well as 430 meters square of grassland. A word on land acquisition. The impact will be minimal. We are going to resume 42 square meters of private land so as to build the steps to lead to the proposed work, and then we need to create rights of temporary occupation of about 154 meters square. So it will only be temporary in nature, will return to the owners after the works have been completed, and then we'll create easements and other permanent rights of about 12 meters square of private land respectively. This is for the purpose of the construction of the elevated footbridge. So we need to take up the space above the land. Heritage impact, there won't be any impact. Employment, we are going to create altogether 68 works related jobs. As to the timeline, we hope we can get your support, and like the last item, at the beginning of next year, we're going to approach the PwC and the FC respectively for the funding approval. And then in the following month, we are going to tender the project, and hopefully end of March, beginning of April, we can start the project to be completed in 2015. Thank you. Floor is open to members for questions. In accordance with Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure, at a meeting of any panels, members may not move any motions or amendments or speak in relation to a topic if the member has direct or indirect pecuniary interest in that matter, unless the member is to disclose the nature of the interest. Therefore, I would like to remind members that if you have direct or indirect pecuniary interest in this matter, before you speak, you need to disclose the nature of such interest. Now, members, the floor is open to you for questions. I suggest that each will have 5 minutes for the question and the answer from the administration. I would like to read out the order of members to ask questions. First of all, Mr. Chen Kin-po, and then Chen Yun-han, and then Chen Gam-lam. Sid Ho, and then Wu Chi-wai, K.K. Kwok. We have 6 who have indicated their wish to ask questions. So first of all, Mr. Chen Kin-po. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the first time that I speak concerning works projects. Well, in fact, I'm a consultant and a director of a reinsurance company. I don't have direct or indirect pecuniary interest, but I still want to play safe, and I want to make a declaration. For the redevelopment of Kwun Tong Town Center, I understand that the General Operation Clinic as well as the Maternal and Child Health Center will be included. the population will increase from 620,000 to 666,000, an increase of 7%. It is said that Kwun Tong attracts a lot of new arrivals. So I want to know if the administration has already taken into account the trend of the growth of new arrivals. That is, have you already taken into account babies born to mainland parents? If not, then the medical and health facilities in Kwun Tong will be overcrowded. So on what basis have you arrived at the population projection? Do you simply look at the redevelopment without considering the new arrivals? But of course, it is also a population policy. I want to know if the administration has considered the matter or not. All right, who would like to take up this question? I'll try to answer the question, and then I'll invite the Dean of Health to supplement, if any. Well, the projection is to have an increase of tens of thousands of people. That is from 620,000 to 660,000. This is based on the Census and Statistics Department's general census. As to whether we have taken into account the number of babies born to mainland mothers or mainland parents and their desire to stay in Hong Kong, or they plan to stay in Hong Kong, well, as far as the Census and Statistics Department is concerned, after they projected the population, the Planning Department will adopt that as the basis, and then we'll try to project the district population in the next 10 years. So for Kwun Tong, we'll try to see if we have got mainland mothers giving birth to babies, and to see if they have a Hong Kong husband or mainland husband. So it's based on the data available in 2010. For data arising thereafter, I'm afraid they were not available at the time, but then for figures already available in 2010, this has already been factored into the population projection. I'm not sure if my colleagues have anything to add. Anything to add? I'm from the D of H. Perhaps I can comment on the case of the Maternal and Child Health Center. We have this historical background. That is, for the MCHC, a few years ago, we saw a decrease in the number of patrons. We have been reviewing our service. At that time, the Altau Kok MCHC and the Kwun Tong MCHC were merged. But then, we've seen an increase of 17% in the number of new cases at Kwun Tong MCHC. Therefore, we have expanded the service of the MCHC in the reprovisioned site. When compared with the general population, we can see that for the same period of time, new child cases has seen an increase of 25% in Hong Kong as a whole. And in the case of Kwun Tong, I don't see an exceptional increase, but still we have already factored in an increase. Mr. Chairman, what if there is a wrong estimate? If we haven't planned for the increase, do you have any fallback position? Can you find an alternative location to provide the service needed? Mr. Chairman, in Kwun Tong, for a few years we've merged the Altau Kok MCHC and Kwun Tong MCHC. In Altau Kok, we have already reserved the site to see if we can meet the additional demand.
Next is Chen Yinhan. I have questions for both papers, but I'll try to deal with them at one go within 5 minutes. Now, concerning the development in Yutwa Street, now you will clear the Jockey Club site, and it will be a site for licensing hawkers. What would the future use of this temporary site? Would it be a tall building? Would it be developed together with Human Square? Earlier, I worked with the local people, and we fought for certain things concerning the Jockey Club block and the government offices. They are now used as a temporary market, but later it will be a housing or hotel project. I don't know what is the detail. Can they provide us the detail, please? I thank Mr. Chan for the question. As for the Jockey Club Health Clinic, the site will not be used for the hawkers. We've already demolished the Kwun Tong government offices. The site will be used for the hawkers. What about the Jockey Club building? Now, the Jockey Club Clinic will be relocated. It is the fourth area of the Kwun Tong redevelopment. According to the outline zoning plan, it is the fourth area. It will be used for hotel and offices. The podium is for commercial use. Short question and short answers. Now, concerning the temporary hawker market, it is just next to the Jockey Club clinic site. Now you will build a hotel there. Now, can they be built at the same phase, or now when the hawkers are trading, the developer may be putting up a hotel, and it will be very dusty to shop at the hawker bazaar. So will you improve the time phase? Now, concerning Yutwa Street, is Area 1 is now under development, and by 2013-14, the buildings will be completed. As for the Kwun Tong Clinic, it will be completed. As for Area 2 and Area 3, development Area 2 and 3, it is at the Hippo Street Hawker Bazaar. It will be cleared at the middle of next year, till the end of next year. After redevelopment, it will be for residential purpose, and then a PTC below. Well, I know that is 2016-17. As for Area 4, the Jockey Club Clinic, 2017 work will commence. I want to ask details. We put emphasis on the hawkers. It is a good thing to allow the hawkers to have a place to trade, but you should avoid the dust. Human Square is very busy, and if the arrangement is not good, then Human Square may become dark and dead and no activity at all. The hawkers are very concerned. Now they accommodate. You want to redevelop Hippo Street, they allow you to do so, and they are moved over there. Let me ask the next question, which is on the pedestrian linkage. The footbridges are very close to the residential buildings. It's just like something like Ching Fung Street. A highway is just outside the window of the homes. And in the future, the pedestrian walkway will be just outside the windows of people's homes. Shouldn't the administration consider the option of underground street? Say, for example, Sharpo Road in Kowloon City, they use an underground street to link up different areas. As for the future development of the clinic service, it is very important to develop primary health care. And Kwun Tong has a lot of poor people and elderly people to the population, 600,000, 700,000. Now, I raise a hand. because I have many questions. Just answer me briefly first. Thank you, Chairman. Concerning the pedestrian linkage in the Yutwa Street, you've seen a photo montage, or rather a photo showing the stairs, the staircase, and you know that the level difference is quite big. The MTR station is at the foothill, at the foot of the hill slope, whereas Yutwa Street is up on the hill, and there are about 180 steps. This is the only way to solve the problem of universal free access, barrier-free access. We want to provide access to the elderly and the disabled. Now, concerning the distance from Tsim House, it's about 2 meters, and we will also use non-transparent glass paints to avoid any disturbance to the residents. And we talk to the residents and we talk to local people, and they seem to accept that. Well, I don't accept that. I am involved in the discussion. Now, when the problem was raised, in fact, there was another story. I know your technical issue, but there are many ways to solve the problem. You don't need to build a footbridge outside people's window. Is it the best way? Okay, you can wait for the second round. Mr. Chen Kam-lam. Concerning the 2 applications, I support them. The Yutwa Street pedestrian linkage has been a topic which we have been fighting for a very long time. There are 180 steps which people have to walk up and down every day. Now there will be a footbridge. But what about the stairs? Will they be closed or will they be kept? Yes, the original stairs will be kept. You can see that from the pedestrian, new pedestrian footbridge, there is a link with the existing stairs. People can make use of Lift Tower 1 to go to Hippo Street Rest Garden, or by making use of the red line, they can go to the old stairs. Now you will link up part of the stairs to the new pedestrian linkage, but there is still some part of the stairs, maybe several dozens of steps, which are still exposed. Are you going to provide a cover to that? As for Tsim House, which is in the middle, there is an access. How can that link to the new pedestrian linkage? Whether we can put up a cover to the stairs, we have to consider that separately. When we consult the local people or district council, we have not received such a suggestion. Our budget has not reserved that, but we can talk to the district. I don't understand your second question. In the middle, there is a building which has an access to the staircase. Under the new system, the residents living in the building cannot make use of the new pedestrian linkage. They still need to make use of their old stairs. Since you are spending a lot on the system in order to provide convenience to the people, my suggestion is that the uncovered old staircase should be provided with a new cover. Ms. Ang, we need to look into the actual situation. Okay. Thank you, Chairman. You still have time left. If you don't have further questions, next in the line, Ms. Sitho. Thank you, Chairman. When we make provision for healthcare services, usually we were given the drawings of the healthcare facility. But in today's paper, we have not seen the design or drawing of the clinic. When the project is put before the PWSC, I hope the Bureau will attach the drawings of the health of the clinic. I've seen that there will be visual tests for elderly. There will be an MCHC. I want to know the location of floors, the access, and the link between different rooms. Are there is there a good linkage? We cannot we should be shown the drawings, even if it is a URA project. When we consider funding proposal for schools, for clinics, we are given the drawings. That's the usual practice. As for construction costs in paragraph 8, it is said that the URA would adopt a one-to-one matching arrangement for the relocation of existing healthcare services. As for the additional floor space, which is 1087 square meters, it will be fully paid by the administration. I want to ask the administration concerning the dollar-to-dollar relocation reprovisioning arrangement. When was that policy promulgated or established? Now we ask the URA to reprovision government services. Is it a precedent or is it something new? What's the basis for this one-for-one or dollar-for-dollar basis? Now, basing on this so-called one-for-one basis, that's about 2,508 square meters to get 1,000 or so square meters. Isn't the construction cost very high? And basing on the budget of $105 million for the additional space and one-for-one basis reprovisioning, what is the unit cost? It's really high. Can the Bureau tell us the unit cost? Yes. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Ho. Concerning the drawings, when we go to the PWSC, or before we go to the PWSC, we'll provide the drawings, as said by Ms. Ho. This is caused by the URA. Because of redevelopment, the URA will make use of our Kwun Tong clinic, and therefore reprovisioning is necessary. And we talked to the URA, and we've considered the drawings, and they follow the administration schedule of accommodation. The facilities all do comply with the government standards. As for the question whether it becomes a precedent or a policy, if the URA conducts any development which affects the GIC facilities, this is the first time of such a big scale, and the one-for-one basis is agreed upon by the government and the URA with the participation of various government departments, including the government GPA, property agent. For reprovisioning, it means that the reprovisioning will base on existing size. Now, say for the occupation safety displays, I have only 20 seconds left. I oppose a one-for-one basis reprovisioning. The URA should take the whole cost. Now, when they bought people's property at 3,000 or so square foot, and they will be selling them at more than $10,000 per square foot. They make a lot of money. Why can't they do it on a one for? Why can't they give us a full reprovisioning? Now, as for Mr. Chairman, as for reprovisioning, just for the Kwun Tong Clinic, it is $168 million. The URA will pay the government that much. As for the government offices, the URA will fully provide the rent in the interim and also pay for the reprovisioning. Now, since this one is an additional requirement, we need to agree with the URA. If it is not done by the URA, and if the department wants to add more floor space, then the government will have to provide the resources. That's why there's the arrangement. What about the construction cost? For what is the unit cost per square foot? And it's $168 million. As for reprovisioning, the GFA is 4,024 square meters. Additional space, 2,476 square meters. As for the figure provided by Mr. Hung, he was referring to the NOA, Net Operable Floor Area, NOFA. What I have provided was the GFA. Mr. Hung 1084, and I mentioned 2476. Now, if you divide the cost by NOFA, that of course looks high, but NOFA is much smaller than GFA. But it's still $4,000 or $4,000 per square foot. As for the cost, we've asked the RHSD to check the price. The RHSD is responsible for many government hospital projects. They have a lot of data. They've checked it, and they've compared the project with similar government clinic projects, and the cost per square foot is similar and is considered to be reasonable. I think the Bureau should give the answer in writing and provide us more details before the PWSC. Yes, please prepare for that, because you still have to answer the question at the PWSC. Do prepare the information. Next is Mr. Wu Chi Wai, followed by KK Kwok. I also want to follow up on the reprovisioning. When government facilities are demolished, and then when the developer provides the reprovisioning, then the developer provides pays a full bill as well, and sometimes the developer may bear the cost for additional facilities. Concerning the reply by the DOH, and the official said that it was rare, but it isn't rare. It isn't rare. Say, for example, a playground is taken up for redevelopment. Then the developer provides the library, the refuse collection point, and other facilities.
This is a very important site, and it has been offered to the URA for redevelopment. Hence, in the negotiation process, the URA needs to have the site, or else it wouldn't have been able to complete this work. And therefore, in the process of negotiation, I'd like to know how come the administration has given up on the traditional approach and also the policy. That's number one. And number two, taking 1,000 steps back. Assuming that you will have to reprovide the clinic there. So for the purpose of the long-term development of the district and also the need for more medical and health facilities, will you be setting aside more space for that? Because while you are undertaking redevelopment, if you're not able to identify site for those purposes, then in the future it will be even more difficult for you to have a specialist clinic, for example. Other than the Tonghua polyclinic, you will have to go elsewhere, and therefore, as far as Kowloon East is concerned, you will have to identify a site in order to meet the long-term medical need, and therefore, while you are undertaking redevelopment, I think it's appropriate for you to identify a site here for that purpose. And also, as Mr. Chen Kam-lam just said, with regard to the covered walkway, I suggest that you can consider that is with the covered walkway, you can have some cantilevers, and that would be able to solve the problem instead of having to build an additional cover, because you'll be able to shelter people from the rain. And also, as you can see at the lift towers here, all right, before the landing point. So I'd like to know, at the landing point from the stairs, does that mean that residents will be able to go back into the covered area so that they can be connected to another section of the MTR station? Well, I would like this to be done because for residents who have to come down from Tsim House, they will need that. And for those who have to use this, does that mean that they will have to come down before they can go back up? Who is to respond to this? Now, coming back to the Tsim House or Tsim Court. Yes, I'd like to clarify this point. Just now, Mr. Wu asked a question. There are two aspects here. One is reprovisioning. The other is additional medical facilities. Well, for the reprovisioning, that's to be funded by the URA. But then for the additional part, the department will have to get additional resources, and we are getting your funding support, because that will have to be paid for by the administration, because we have never had an example or precedents whereby for the purpose of redevelopment, the administration will have to take up the space of the URA. This has never been done before. As regards whether or not there should be reserved space for expansion in the future, well, all along for different departments, let's say if there are GIC sites available, and if we have to set aside land for different purposes, and when different departments have different needs, then we have established procedures for them to get those facilities and space. And on this occasion, we are seizing the opportunity. That's because the URA is undertaking redevelopment, and therefore, on top of the redevelopment, the department concerned has raised this proposal. I think we need to discuss it from the policy perspective, because there are different ways of describing it. All right, you talk about reprovisioning, but then you talk about additional facilities, and they will have to be funded by the administration. But then we are talking about a prime site. How come in exchange you're getting back so little? You should have been able to argue or bargain for more. Well, in terms of the net floor area, we have not lost anything at all. We have not lost anything. Well, that's the way negotiation goes, because what's important is you're talking about the development site, and once you are giving it up, then it involves the negotiation strategy adopted by the administration chairman. Yes? Well, at the time of the negotiation, actually the process is that the department would make this request. For example, we are making the request for additional facilities to be provided, and the department concerned is asking for additional land and also for the relevant facilities. Yes, I understand it, but then I was wondering how come it was not picked up by the developer instead of the administration. Kokaki. Sorry, Chairman. Just now, during the first motion, well, I was intending to ask a question just now, but then I was attending the HSP meeting. That's why I wasn't able to be here. All right, with regard to the reprovisioning and also the provision of additional facilities using the words of the administration, I am disappointed, because in reality, in Kowloon East, in Kuntong, in terms of the demand for medical facilities is very great, whether it's the outpatient or general outpatient clinic or elderly health center. Indeed, many residents have had to queue up for a long time, in particular for dental services. Yes, according to the administration, it's only responsible for providing acute dental services. But let's not forget that for every day, for people waiting for GOPD services and also for elders waiting for elderly health center services, I think the quota is very small and therefore the waiting time is very long. So it's a very hard waiting for many elders, and therefore the DFH should have taken the opportunity to appropriately increase the services in Kwun Tong. If you have failed to do that, then I would find it most disappointing. Well, I don't know if the DFH has already done its best, but then it's the administration that has failed us. So I think they will need to come clean on this, because if we lost this opportunity, then it will be difficult for us to come up with another opportunity to make use of the site at Yitwa Street, because there is simply no alternative site available at Yitwa Street for the provision of such facilities. We are already expecting that there will be a shortage, and in the future the demand will be even more acute. In fact, Kwun Tong and Kowloon East, whether you're talking about the aging population and also if you look at the poorest population, in fact, Kowloon East would definitely be one of the top 3 districts. So how come the administration has been so miserly? How come you have not been able to get sufficient space for that? And another minor issue is with regard to the pedestrian linkage. Well, there are many trees that will have to be felled. A total of 11 trees will have to be felled, but then only 3 will be reprovided. So should the administration have the responsibility to make sure that not only should you be providing the same number of trees after the felling of trees, you should have provided more actually. Well, on the question about trees, well, with regard to the linkage and also the felling of trees, only 2 will be felled. For the other 9, they will be transplanted to a location outside of the site, because within the site there may not be appropriate location for the transplanting of the trees, and therefore only 2 trees will have to be felled, and we'll be replanting 3 trees, and we would also like to plant more trees, but then there is simply not enough space for that. So you talk about vertical greening. Is that possible? Well, along the footbridge there will be a lot of greening, because as you can see, well, there are some planters, and there will also be some lawns for grass and so on. Well, previously we also suggested that along Kwun Tong Road on the pavement there can be a few more trees, but then the Kwun Tong District Council is not in favor of that because it doesn't want to have too many trees at that location. Chairman, how about the health issue? You will have to answer the question because I'm running out of time. Sorry, Chairman, I'm from the DFH. With regard to the point made by Dr. Kwok, I think the most important point is about services for the elderly. Well, there are different services for the elderly, and we do have this elderly health center, and the services provided by the health center, and the government's policy is that in every district there will be one elderly health center, and in Kwun Tong we have one at Tek Tien Estate, and recently it's also a relatively new center, and therefore recently when we did the planning, we have not set aside another site for another elderly health center, but then under the hospital authorities GOPD, we have already increased services in order to provide for the needs of the chronically ill. Chairman, I don't have time to argue with her, but then there is no reason for you to ask the elders to go to Tek Tien. I think at the Yitwa Street location there are so many elders there, and if you can only provide the services at Tek Tien, do you think that that's adequate? I think this is a golden opportunity. You should have strive for another center here. So is it that the administration doesn't allow you to do it? Well, let me repeat it again. For the policy for the time being is that only one center for every district, and for the Tek Tien elderly health center is a relatively new one, and therefore initially when we considered this project we did not have the reprovisioning arrangement. I'm outraged, Chairman, because you're using this policy and you're actually telling us that for the eldest population here their needs will be set aside, and you're asking them to travel such a long distance to another center. Well, other than the Tactin Center, in fact, under the HA's GOPD, they have already introduced services for the chronically ill, including the elders. Well, for special circumstances that can be dealt with extraordinarily. So has the administration considered this? Yes, Deputy Chairman. Yes, Chairman, of course, making the best use of land resources is very important with regard to the Kwun Tong Town Center redevelopment, and if this clinic has to be relocated and reprovided to tie in with the development, well, we do agree with many members' views. That is in the negotiation process. Let's say the URA is a developer. I think the benefit to the URA far outweighs the reprovisioning. Yes, obviously they will have to provide for the one-for-one reprovisioning. That's their duty. So, well, obviously you have already, it's a done deal, and therefore nothing can be done about it. But then we are simply puzzled as to why this is the case, because if you talk about the benefit, and if they do not relocate the facilities, then it's the URA that will stand to lose. And of course, on the issue of price, well, for the one-for-one reprovisioning, just now we've been told that even for furniture items and also devices, apparatus, will that be included as well under the one-for-one deal? And also with regard to the additional facilities, well, just now we were told about the cost. Apparently the cost was quite high. So if you're talking about additional facilities, well, if you're just topping up the facilities, then the construction cost should have been lower, because you're actually talking about extended facilities. So under the reprovisioning, so are you just talking about the hardware? But then for reprovisioning, it doesn't include just the shell or the building itself. You will have to make sure that certain facilities are provided, because that's to tie in with the redevelopment, and you will have to move elsewhere, and therefore you will have to strive for a better deal. So I'd like to get more details in terms of the cost calculation. What are the criteria? Is that the same? I'll attempt to answer, and my colleagues can also supplement on the technical details. Well, with regard to the reprovisioning requirement, well, what we are talking about today is the Kwun Tong Jockey Club Health Center. As members have said, we have a government officers there, and therefore for anything that has been affected, well, for all government facilities that are affected, the URA, well, on this occasion, they will have to build it, and we will have to move back in, and therefore for the reprovisioning cost, that will be taken up by the URA. And what we are asking members to support us is other than the floor space that will be additional, we are also talking about additional facilities. But then for the reprovisioning part, that will be taken up by the URA. And as I've said, we are not applying for that under this item, but then for the government offices and also all the office accommodation, because the building has not been put up yet, and therefore in the interim they will have to be temporarily relocated elsewhere, and all the costs will be picked up by the URA. So so that would be fully covered by the URA in terms of the office accommodation at Millennium City. But then we are actually deploying government architects to do the calculation. So, well, if it's the government that will be building the building, then the cost will be like that, and therefore we are asking the URA for full funding and we're asking for full recovery of the cost. But then you're talking about the reprovisioning. You're actually talking about existing medical and health facilities, but then when it comes to additional medical and health facilities, you talk about the additional provisioning of the facilities. Yes, there will be additional floor space, and with additional floor area, well, for example, for dental chairs, that would also be covered in the proposal that we are making now. I'm still a little confused. So you talk about reprovisioning of medical and health facilities and also furniture items and so on, because some of the facilities cannot be relocated. So are they just putting up the shell? So you talk about the net floor area. 1,087 square meters, right? So it's different, right? Well, for the 1,087 square meters, that's the additional floor space. So they'll just provide the additional floor space for you. What was basic refurbishment, and also the facility, and also the utilities. But what about the medical facilities? Well, that's under the current funding proposal. So so it's not for the URA to provide, right? Correct. All right. Any further questions in the first round? Yes, yes, Mr. Paul Chair. Yes, Chairman. I'd like to. Well, I support both items, but then concerning the pedestrian linkage, well, just now our question was asked about the stairs. Well, after the connection, what about the pedestrian flow? Does it mean that most of the residents will be using the new system, or is it that a rather substantial number of people would still be using the old stairs? If that's true, then I would agree with what some members have said with regard to the shelter or rain shelter of the stairs. So if you're able to increase the cost a little bit, then whether it's Tsim Court, and even for those who choose to walk on the stairs, then they will be covered. Because I'm concerned about the capacity of the lift, because have you done any calculation? Are you sure that the capacity is adequate to meet the peak demand, in particular if everybody is using the lift and escalators? And also with regard to the health center project, just now Dr. Chiu told us that they once considered that Kwun Tong and Ngau Tau Kok can have merged services. But what about obstetric services? Well, in recent years there has been serious fluctuation, and I understand that in Kwun Tong they also I understand that in Chiang Kwon they also have plans to change it. So have you done any projection? Would the services be adequate? And also we're talking about United Christian Hospital. They also talk about redevelopment. So you're talking about different systems and also different outpatient clinics and the demand. So in terms of the timing, have you done any coordination in order to make sure that the services would be adequate, and also there would also not be serious fluctuation in terms of the demand for services? Well, with regard to the pedestrian flow of the pedestrian walkway or linkages, we have done some calculation. With the completion of the new pedestrian linkages, most of the residents will be making use of the new elevated pedestrian footbridge, and they'll be taking the lift or the escalator down to Hip Wall Street. So they will be using lift at Tower 1 because it will be a lot more convenient. So would the lift be large enough? Would it be quick enough? Yes, it should be adequate, because we have done some projection into 2016, and it should be adequate to cope. And we believe that for the existing stairs, very few people will be making use of it. But then our view is, well, let's wait until after the completion of the pedestrian linkage, and then we'll see what the situation is on the ground, and then we'll see if we should spend additional resources for the construction of a cover. I think that would be more cost effective.
Any other questions? What about the question about the clinics? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we have said, we'll be watching the changes in the demand, and we'll be looking at the actual demand for the service. In the past, we merged the two MCHCs, and for the prenatal examination, we saw a slight increase. We've expected an increase, and therefore, within the reprovisioning exercise, we have already asked for the reinstatement of the Kwun Tong MCHC. Well, there will be a 7.2% increase in the population up to the year 2019. And I want to know whether you are increasing the facilities to the same magnitude. I think for 4 areas to be added. I think they are on the low side. And as colleagues have already said, you haven't relied on the opportunity to increase the medical and health facilities or improve the facilities. Perhaps it is too late, but at least I want to know whether you have any plans for any increase. Mr. Chairman, Kwun Tong covers Ao Tau Kok as well. In the past, Kwun Tong and Ao Tau Kok MCHCs were merged. Now we want to reprovision the Kwun Tong MCHC in the new site. For the Ao Tau Kok MCHC, it will remain. We'll be monitoring the situation. If necessary, we'll increase the resources and we can boost the service in Ao Tau Kok. Any other questions during the first round? Mr. Leung Kwok Hong. For the Yuen Wah Street pedestrian linkage, I think it is right to have the linkage. I went there before. I mean, I did fight for this service in the this facility in the past. Somebody wondered why, all out of a sudden, Yuen Wah Street got the pedestrian linkage. There was a complaint to us. It ranked the 13th among the 18 projects during the last term of the government. In other words, it wasn't part of the top 10 projects. The 11th project in Kwai Chung disappeared. It isn't so much that they were saying that they shouldn't give the facility to Yuen Wah Street, but they were asking for all the 18 projects to be implemented. So I must make some comments here. The previous term of the government promised to do it. 10 will be constructed first, and then we were told that it will be a rolling program. When the first one has its feasibility study completed, then the one for the 11th project will start. Now the 11th one has disappeared, but we have got the 13th given a start. Why is it so? You can't blame the Kwai Chung residents or residents in other districts facing a similar situation for having a doubt in their mind. C.Y. Leung has introduced this policy, that is, we should have a universal accessibility program. It's a good idea. However, since we no longer get Eva Jiang here, so and she used to be the Director Bureau overseeing such matters. So what are the criteria that you have adopted to make a decision in such matters? Last time when I took this up with the administration, we were told that the EMSD carried out a feasibility study. And on that basis, they would design the lift tower, but then it will be difficult to follow such a flow chart owing to lack of manpower. So we suggested it should be a built and designed project, as there might be difficulties in inviting tenders. So the question is, was it a directive imposed on you from above, or what was the basis for setting the priorities? Officials. Mr. Chairman, I may not know about the details of other projects, but then please take a look at paragraph 17 to 19, which sets out the history or the background of this project. So for the Yuen Wah Street pedestrian linkage, we have been following the steps. First of all, in year 2007, there was a preliminary study, and then in 2008, in December, we upgraded it to Cat B, and then it means that we were able to start the design work. So after year 2008, in fact in September 2009, there was a design competition, and one of the items included in competition was this one in Yuen Wah Street. In 2010 June, we got approval to engage consultants to undertake the detailed design. And in year 2011, we gazetted the project under the relevant legislation. So we have been moving ahead in line with the procedures. Yes, I think the problem is that we have got too many government departments. You have the URA, and so maybe it has been expedited. But what about the other projects, like the slope work? I want to know who could make a decision. Would it be sort of a directive from the URA? Well, under 163TB, we have got 3 groups of pedestrian linkages, Yutwa Street pedestrian linkage being one of them. For the 3 pedestrian linkages, position of which have been indicated on a map, we try to tie in with the phased redevelopment of Kwun Tong Town Center redevelopment. So it arises from the URA redevelopment. Well, let me put it this way. We have to tie in with the timetable of the URA the redevelopment. Now this has been cleared. Yesterday I wasn't so clear. Any more questions in the first round? No, then 3 more members will speak for the second time, and then I'll draw a line. Chen Yunhan is not yet here, so sit hold please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just now I asked this question. Between the government and the URA, there is this agreement, and you are responsible for the 1-for-1 reprovisioning, while they are responsible for the 1-for-1 compensation in relation to commercial tenants. I want to know how is it different from the compensation for commercial tenants when you resume the shops. Now for the tenants or the landowners, you offer a 7-year-old flat, but then for the shops, I think the offer is much lower than the market rent. Now you only pay for the construction cost, and yet the URA would foot the bill for your rental during the construction period, while you have to be reprovisioned elsewhere. So it seems that there are differential treatments. You need to exercise self-discipline. You can't allow the commercial tenants to suffer so much at the hands of the URA, and if they don't take up the offer before the deadline, then they will be taken to court, and yet the administration is given a different set of treatments. So please give us the comparison. At least commercial tenants whose shops have been resumed by the URA will know how different it is. And secondly, if the administration thinks that it is fair, then do you think that you should review the URAO so that the same terms offered to the government will be offered to the commercial shop owners, so that they have a shop for a shop? And then thirdly, I want to know whether the URA can make any profits under such an arrangement. The URA is funded by the taxpayers. They have such a good agreement with you, and you still allow them to have this 1-for-1 reprovisioning. I don't expect an answer on the spot, but I hope that in the PwC paper, details will be set out to answer my questions. Yes, please have a tabulated piece of information. Anything to say here? If not, then please include the detailed information in the PwC paper. Next, Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Going back to the same 2 questions, in this paper, mention has been made about the 1-for-1 reprovisioning. 1-for-1 reprovisioning, will it become the rule and policy for any agreements between the government and developers when it comes to reprovisioning? Will it be a policy that will be the established policy? It seems to me that every time the government will look at the characteristics of individual cases in the course of negotiation, I want to know whether this will become a precedent. This is important to me. Second, in the course of reprovisioning and in the course of providing additional facilities, I want to know why it is the government that will take up the additional facilities when we give up such a precious piece of land. If you look at the value of the land, I think the value will far exceed the location that you get in return, because the site that you give up is right at the MTR station. So I think that's more valuable than the Yutwa Street site. So I want to know why the government is giving up such precious land and gets so little in return. Perhaps, Mr. Chairman, you need to ask the relevant bureaus to give a detailed answer at the PWC meeting. It seems to me that this is a new policy, so you are giving up so much to get so little in return. So I hope you can tell us more about the details of your negotiation. Who will take up this question? Ms. So? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Wu, for the question. Well, Mr. Wu and Ms. Ho are interested in the mode of operation of the URA all along. It is a matter of land resumption, and certain government facilities used to sit on the facilities resumed. Well, you want to know whether it will become a policy for reprovisioning. My understanding is that when land is sold, and if GIC is involved, the terms of the land sale will include the GIC facilities. Now, the URA is a statutory body. Its mode of operation is governed by the law, and all along the policies have been established for its operation. And as I have said, a redevelopment project of the URA may resume land where there are government facilities to be reprovisioned. This is the first time we have this arrangement. For the time being, we don't see any other similar projects, including so many government facilities. Is it a matter of giving up precious land and you get so little in return? Well, the URA is doing urban renewal, and usually it resumes land in the urban area, and you will say that the land is very valuable. And then it is said that public powers have been invoked to resume land, and other than providing housing, the URA, in its annual report to us, will also provide non-profit making facilities and services like urban renewal and support to building maintenance. So the URA has a number of items in its operation. So if you call it giving up precious land so as to allow the URA to make profits, it may not be comprehensive as a statement. Sorry. Now, the URA should be regarded as an independent developer in this case. So I'm worried. I want to know whether this policy will become an unfortunate precedent so that we lose the weapons to stand against the property hegemony. I agree that the two projects should go ahead, but there are certain doubts in our mind, and I hope that there would be a detailed written reply to us before we go to the PWSC. Ms. Chen Yunhan is still not here, so I think we have had thorough discussion of the items. So I think I'll draw a line here. Members, do you support the government's submission of the 2 proposals to the PWSC for funding request? Any objection? If not, Ms. Sit Ho. I'm not going to object to it, but I have to record my comment. Now, in the course of urban renewal, how come that the government get a more favorable offer than ordinary commercial tenants or owners? They have been exploited by the URA, and yet the government can have a flat for flat, shop for flat arrangement. It is a very favorable treatment. The government must explain the source of such a policy. So you want to have a more detailed explanation. When the funding request is discussed at the PWC meeting, I will be reporting to the PWC in relation to members' concern and comments. There will be a written report from me. On this note, I would like to thank the officials for attending this item and answering the questions.
Oh. 現有啲進入第6項嘅議程。
And that takes us to the 6th item on the agenda, PWP item number 334WF, expansion of Taipo water treatment works and ancillary raw water and freshwater transfer facilities, Part 2 works. I would like to invite the officials to come into the conference room.
首先歡迎。
First of all, I'd like to welcome the officials attending this item. The name list has already been tabled, and I'm not going to introduce them one by one. So I'll give the floor to the administration. Please give us a concise briefing. Please keep your comments short. For members' questions, in accordance with Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure, at any meeting of panels, members may not move any motions or amendments or speak about a matter if they have a direct or indirect pecuniary interest, unless members disclose the nature of the interest. Therefore, I would like to remind members that if you have a direct or indirect pecuniary interest in the matter before us today, please disclose the nature of the interest before you speak. Now, I'd like to give the floor to members to ask questions. I suggest that each member will have 5 minutes to ask questions and to get replies from the government.
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me brief you, take you through the paper. This is to seek your support to upgrade 334WF, expansion of Taipo water treatment works and ancillary raw water and freshwater transfer facilities, Part 2 works to Category A. It covers 4 things. First, upgrading the existing water treatment facilities and increase the output capacity. Number 2, upgrade the capacity of existing Taipo raw water pumping station and Taipo freshwater pumping station. Number 3, expanding the storage capacity of an existing primary freshwater primary service reservoir, and number 4, laying about 900 meters of mains, and the total cost is $176.7 million. With regard to the Tai Po Water Works, it is one of 2 major treatment works. Together with Sha Tin, the 2 account for 56% of total demand, 56% of the total demand for fresh water. The Sha Tin Waterworks was in place in 1964 and has been used for more than 40 years. The facilities are rather old, and we have a plan to upgrade Sha Tin Water Treatment Works so that its capacity can be maintained. Our plan is first to improve Tai Po Water Treatment Works and upgrade its capacity so that part of the production capacity of Sha Tin can be replaced, and we can therefore conduct in situ reprovisioning of the Sha Tin Water Treatment Works. The reprovisioning will be conducted in several phases. As for the upgrading of Tai Po WTW, it will be conducted into 2 phases. The first phase is to upgrade its daily output of 250,000 cubic meters to 400,000 cubic meters. The project started has broadly been completed by 2011, and the daily output is already 400,000 cubic meters. We propose to upgrade it further to 800,000 cubic meters per day. With the completion of the works, the additional output will be able to share part of the output of Sha Tin to provide fresh water. The Sha Tin works can therefore be reprovisioned in situ. As for the network of Tai Po and Sha Tin, the network has also been improved. Flexibility therefore will be better. Mr. K.K. Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. I know that the upgrading is needed. Now, the facility was started in 2003, and in 10 years' time, you propose to upgrade it from 400,000 to 800,000. If you had done it in the first phase, it would have saved a lot of money. Now it's rather expensive, more than $6.1 billion. You already knew that Sha Tin WTW would be reprovisioned and upgraded. Why didn't you do it in the first phase of Tai Po? Now, will you be able to completely replace Sha Tin WTW with the present upgrade of Tai Po WTW? Now, the administration may relocate the Sha Tin WTW and also the sewage treatment works there in order to obtain more land. Is your proposal neither here nor there? Can you further increase Tai Po WTW so that the Sha Tin one becomes not necessary anymore? Will that be good in the long term? It will cause minimum disruption, and it's also big money to be spent on Sha Tin. And as for the water mains, in the future you will need to reprovision the water mains because of the Sha Tin WTW upgrading. Apart from the $6 billion, is there any more money that need to be spent due to the upgrading of the WTWs, the department. As for the reprovisioning of the Sha Tin WTW, we can upgrade the WTW at Sha Tin in situ. We do not need Tai Po to replace part of the function of Sha Tin, but the WSD is of view that this may not be the best approach. Now, Sha Tin's site is rather small, and there is difficulty of reprovisioning in situ. And we also need to make sure that the reprovisioning will not affect the production of water. Having considered various options, we believe that the present proposal, which is to upgrade. So you have already considered this, Chairman, if I may jump in. Does it mean that you don't need Sha Tin anymore after Tai Po is upgraded? Well, it will only take up part of the production capacity of Sha Tin. In Sha Tin, they have the southern plant and the northern plant. The southern plant was completed in the 1960s. It is more than 40 years old, and we want to reprovision this one. In Tai Po, we have space available so that the southern plant of Sha Tin can be replaced. The southern plant can be stopped and then take out and be taken out, and then we can do the reprovisioning. And after the completion of the southern plant, the northern plant of the WTW in Sha Tin will be quite old, and we need the reprovisioning of the northern plant of the Sha Tin WTW. And we need to consider the arrangement. My question is, the southern plants will be replaced. Is it possible to expand the scale of Tai Po so that you don't need the north plants and the northern plants as well? Will that be more cost effective? Say, do away with the northern plant, just expand Tai Po. Now the Sha Tin WTW northern plant together with Tai Po WTW are able to supply the fresh water. And if we are to build Tai Po even bigger, that may not be appropriate at present. If we are to spend a lot of money to build a bigger plant, which is not demanded for, it is not cost effective. What we need is just to expand Tai Po to accommodate the production capacity of the southern plant of Sha Tin. And if we are to expand Tai Po so that we don't even need the northern plant, that is not cost effective, because the northern plant is still being operated, is still being used, and we don't need to scrap it. Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Thank you, Chairman. I want to follow up the point raised by Mr. Kwok. The administration says that the Sha Tin WTW will be relocated into a cave-in, a big cave-in. Now, concerning the Tai Po WTW, we have no strong views. We need to upgrade it because it has been operating for quite some time. But if we can move a Sha Tin WTW into a cave-in, that will involve another cost. Should we increase the scale of Tai Po? and compare that with the cost of putting Sha Tin WTW into a cave-in? That's the first question. The second question is more immediate. Now with the WTW, there will be sludge produced. Will the sludge be dealt with in situ, or will you adopt the old approach, just pack them and seal them and then put the sludge into the landfill? At present, concerning moving facilities into cave-ins, we do have a plan, and that is in relation to the Sha Tin sewage treatment works. The facility will be moved into a cave-in because near Chevalier Garden in Mong there is a cave-in which can accommodate the sewage treatment works. But we have no plan to move the Sha Tin WTW into a cave-in. This involves a more comprehensive study on the relocation of government facilities into cave-ins. The administration is still conducting the study. At present, we have no plan. As for the southern plant of Sha Tin WTW, we did apply for funding for reprovisioning, and we are now doing the detailed design and also investigation. It is something going on. At present, we have no plan to move the facility into a cave-in. As for the expansion of typo WTW and whether we will produce more waste, the design is rather advanced. We will try to recycle the water. Maybe the WSD can explain the operation of typo WTW and the effluent treatment. As for effluent treatment, we will recycle the treatment. We will recycle the effluent and put them back into the source and treat them as raw water. And there will still be some waste accumulated. And then by compression, we will turn them into sludge cakes. The quantity of sludge will be reduced to the smallest before sending to the landfill. So you can guarantee that sludge will not cause any odor or cause any nuisance during the course of transportation. I dare not say that there will not be no odor, but according to our experience of handling typo and Sha Tin, which are existing WTWs, we have not come across such a problem. With regard to the new Sha Tin WTW, if its capacity is increased to 800,000 cubic meters, what is this percentage in terms of water supply? Every day, the daily usage is 2.5 cubic meters. 2.5 million cubic meters. Typo 800,000, so one-third, a little bit more than one-third. Mr. K.K. Kwok. Mr. Chairman, concerning the southern plant, according to the administration, is now being planned and therefore doesn't want to touch it. And I'm not standing in its way, but I hope that they can provide us with some documents. According to your plan, with regard to the southern plant, how much do you need? And I don't know whether you have done your sums. Now, if in comparison with upgrading Thai Post capacity, say from 800,000 to 1.2 million cubic meters, instead of reprovisioning the southern plant, will it be more cost effective? We want to know. That. In fact, the land released by closing the southern plant may be able to meet housing needs, and then Leung Chun-ying will thank you very much. Any response from the department? We can provide information. Yes, if I may add. Concerning the WTW, it isn't just about a site. It is also about the water supply network, both upstream and downstream. They are very expensive facilities. It isn't just the relocation of a plant from one place to another. We also need to consider the water transportation facilities, and they are very costly in terms of new installation and reprovisioning, and their works of reprovisioning and installation also cause a lot of issues, such as transportation. Thank you. I hope they will provide more information in writing. Any more questions? No more. Good. Yes. A simple question. I know that in Sam Shui Po and Kowloon City, you are going to lay large diameter mains. And in the laying process, it will of course affect the community. But you say in your paper that it will not affect the community. What's the basis of your assessment? Who? Mr. Leung, Mr. Chen, or Mr. Pon? Now, when we lay water mains in the urban area, we agree that it will affect traffic, at least. But we are very experienced in making the arrangements. We will do the EIA and then TIA, and then we will come up with mitigation measures. We need a agreement of the transport department and the police. We will try to minimize the adverse impact. There will certainly be some adverse impacts. I raise the issue of mains because I come across the laying of mains in the district very often. Time and again, we ask the administration to adopt a pipeline tunnel approach. By a major project, you put all the underground facilities into one big tunnel, and that will avoid the digging up and covering of the road or the roads from time to time. Every time when you conduct large-scale water main laying, we hope that you will consider this approach, but it has not been accepted when I raised the issue at the district council. I don't know whether the department will consider this. And please consider whether it is possible or not possible. If you think that is impossible, then I will put this proposal to rest. Concerning the situation in the urban area, if we are to build a facility to accommodate all the underground utilities, that will be very difficult because there are already many underground utilities. And if we can do it once for all, we still find it very difficult to get new space to accommodate all these.
Given the fact that most areas are already built-up areas, and therefore it's difficult to identify such space for housing all these facilities. But then we will try to coordinate with other public utilities so that we will adopt traffic management measures in order to minimize the impact on the traffic. And of course, there are ways to minimize pollution, say noise nuisance, or we'll try to use silent apparatus or devices. And to adopt a brand new approach may not be that easy. Yes, I can see that you're talking about some 1200 millimeters to 1800 millimeters diameter mains. Actually is close to 6 feet, so it's a very large trunk, and therefore you will have to take up quite a lot of road space before you can do it. And actually we can see that there are road works involving the use of substantive road space. So why can't you just include the possible or the possibility of accommodating all these public utilities in one main instead of having to dig up the road all the time? You're talking about some shared tunnels or shared trunks. All right, in the urban built-up area, as Mr. Chen just said, to lay one main is already rather difficult. And if you have to have these shared tubes for all the public utilities, it's almost impossible. And well, yes, for greenfield sites, it might be possible, but then there are different connecting points and also different public utilities and different underground utilities, and therefore it's very difficult. But of course, we do understand that the impact on the traffic would be very significant, and therefore at the road junctions, we will try to use the non-digging method. In other words, there will be 2 holes drilled on both ends, and then we'll try to push the tubes along so that there would not be any need for us to dig up the trench. And but that would be a relatively expensive approach, so we will have to weigh the pros and cons as to which approach is the most cost effective and which approach will be most able will be able to minimize the impact on the public. All right, I think we have had sufficient discussion on this. So do members agree that we should recommend this to the PWSC so that the administration can raise this at the PWSC? Well, we only have 2 members here. Well, actually we have 4. All right, it's okay. But then we just like to get more relevant information from them. Yes, we can ask them to provide that. All right. When the item is discussed at the PWSC, I'll be reporting to the PWSC, and I'll raise the concerns that have been raised by members, and the written report will be submitted to the PWSC. All right. Thank you very much, administration team. Now we move on to the next item, item 7, policy and matters relating to preservation of historical remains discovered at work sites. Let's invite the administration team to join us.
No.
First of all, I'd like to welcome government representatives attending the meeting. The attendance list has been tabled before members, and therefore I do not propose to introduce them one by one. Let's invite the administration team to brief us on the subject. I understand that the administration will be doing a PowerPoint presentation. Please be precise and concise. Thank you, Chairman. As the Chair just said, we're going to have a PowerPoint presentation, and we'll ask our colleagues to give you an overview on the policy and matters relating to preservation of historical remains discovered at work sites, and also the administrative arrangements, and also at the Harcourt Garden with regard to the seawall remains, what's happened, and also what are the procedures that we have followed. I understand that recently, with regard to heritage conservation, there have been some concerns, and therefore, in terms of the reporting procedures, there might be room for improvement, and we'll be more than happy to listen to members' views. So, first of all, let us first do the PowerPoint presentation. Yes, thank you, Chairman. First of all, I'd like to give you an overview on the existing policy and matters relating to preservation of historical remains. First of all, on the administrative protection, we have over 200 places of heritage significance, and the AMO, the Antiquities and Monuments Office, has already provided relevant departments with a list of archaeological sites to facilitate early consideration on the protection of archaeological sites. And during the early stage of the planning, all the departments concerned will consider how these sites can be protected. And in the future, such information about the archaeological sites will also be updated, and the updated information will also be passed on to the relevant works departments. On top of that, in 2008, starting from January, we do have this mechanism of heritage impact assessment that has been put in place, so that for new capital works projects and also their proponents, they will also have to take into account whether or not the project might affect sites of historic or archaeological significance, and there is a need for such works or projects to go through the AMO to see if an HIA will be necessary. And the purpose, of course, is to ensure that such public works projects will have to avoid these sites as far as possible, and if it's inevitable, then we will have to come up with mitigation measures. Next, I'll turn to statutory protection. First of all is the Antiquities and Monuments Ordinance. For the purpose of the AMO, or the Antiquities and Monuments Ordinance, is to monitor the situation so that between preservation and development there will be a proper balance struck, and it provides that for anybody who has discovered possible monuments, then he will have to report to the Antiquities Authority, that is the Secretary for Development, and appropriate measures will also have to be taken to protect the site. And if anybody would like to excavate the archaeological site, then he will have to get a license from the Antiquities Authority before he can start the works. And on this occasion, at the MTRCL site, well, in fact, the archaeologist appointed by the MTRCL has also been granted a license under Section 12 of the A&M Ordinance. And in the process of applying for the license, the AMO has also passed on the application to the AAB, and the AAB was consulted. And with regard to the progress of archaeological excavation, and a progress report will also have to be made to the AMO and AAB, and under the A&M, under the EIAO, there are also provisions. For example, the EIAO will have to make sure that an EIA will be undertaken, and appropriate mitigation measures will also be put in place to protect the environment. And there is also a need for an environmental impact assessment to be carried out, and that would also include heritage sites and also the impact on the monuments, and all these impacts will also be looked into. So on this occasion, let's take a look at the site in question. That is the South Island Line East, and also the workflow of archaeological works under the EIA of the SILE. This is a designated project. In 2008 February, the MTRCL applied to the Director of Environmental Protection to the and a works brief was submitted, and the EIA brief was also submitted. And of course, this is also a public engagement process. And in November in October 2010, there was a report, and it's proposed that in the course of the works, the MTRCL will have to appoint a qualified archaeologist to monitor the works in order to have some involvement in the works, and also for mitigation measures that will be necessary, he will have to consult the AMO, and he will have to get the approval. And in November that year, a permit was issued, and in May 2011, the archaeologists commissioned by the MTRCL submitted an application for license for the archaeological works concerned to the AMO, and it was supported by the AAB, and the Antiquities Authority issued the license. And in the process of the archaeological watching brief, any progress will have to be reported, and AMO's approval would also be necessary. And on the 25th of September 2012, AMO was notified by the archaeologists of the discovery of the remains of the fragmented seawall. The archaeologist will continue with his watch, and in mid-2013, he'll be completing his report. Next, I'll defer to Mr. Ming Kei Chun from the AMO, who will give you more details about the archaeological find.
圖片見到嘅呢，就係南港。
From this, we can see the alignment of the SIL, and also the site is Harcourt Garden at the Admiralty Station. Well, for any archaeological watch under the legislation, there is very stringent requirement, and therefore we have appointed Julie Vandenberg, and in 2005 we already submitted the application, and with the approval by the AAB, the license was issued, and the watch started in June 2011. And in the process, the AMO and Ms. Vandenberg have maintained very close liaison in order to monitor the progress. And on the 25th of September 2012, Ms. Vandenberg informed the AMO that there was a discovery of certain remains, and then on the 26th of September, the AMO went to the site to conduct an investigation or inspection. And in a moment, you'll be able to see from the pictures. So you'll be able to see the situation of the remains. Well, on the top left-hand corner, you can see the remains is about 40 meters long. And according to archaeologist Ms. Vandenberg, she's of the view that these are the remains of a seawall, and it's about 40 meters long. But then it's fragmented. Some of the rocks are absent, and it's also rather dilapidated. And also on the right-hand side, and also on the lower left-hand corner, here are the pictures of a close-up of the seawall fragment. And as you can see from the right-hand side, you can see the cross-section of the seawall fragments, and you can see that some of the rocks are not there. And Ms. Vandenberg has also made reference to some literature, and she has now got the following observation. She has also looked into government archive and also the seawall, and that's on the left-hand side. Then that's how the seawall was constructed. And then we also have a map dating back to 1845. It shows the project on the seawall construction, and it also shows very clearly where the battery is. And in other words, the battery and also the seawall are basically two separate facilities. And according to Ms. Vandenberg also tried to superimpose the seawall fragment onto the map. And as you can see, that's the red part in the lower right-hand corner. So, well, the tip of it, or the protruding part, is the battery. And the AMO then worked with Ms. Vandenberg, and after discussion with Ms. Vandenberg, the AMO colleagues have also done some study and research, and we have made reference to old pictures and old maps and also some old files and archive, and one of which was the map shown here dating back to 1842, and the yellow part is the location of the Wellington Battery, and at the time we didn't have the name Wellington Battery, but then when we compare the shape, it's also not the same, because in the early days is the shape was very different from what it looked or how it looked later. And then according to the information, by 1845, the seawall was constructed, and Wellington Battery was also reconstructed, and it now changed to how it looked here. By 1856, alright, this one will be clearer. So that's the coastline, and also the location of the battery, so both can be shown more clearly. And then by 1889, as you can see from this map, you can see that the front part of the battery, you can see a pier here. In fact, by 1885, the battery was already not in use. In other words, the original function of the battery was it was not put into use. And we've also made reference to some old pictures. This is a picture taken in 1875, and at the time the seawall was already constructed, and also the battery was also redeveloped, and you can see both the pier and also the battery. And the next picture was taken in 1885, and again you can see that at the front part you can see the pier, and at the time the battery was already not put in use. And after discussion and after making reference to some old pictures and so on, we agree with the observation of Miss Vandenberg. So that is the remains discovered was very much part of the old seawall. And we have also invited the Hong Kong U and also the Baptist U and the experts from both universities to conduct a site visit. And according to their site visit, they also further felt that these remains were very much the fragments of a seawall instead of part of the battery. All in all, for the remains discovered at Harcourt Garden, well, is a fragment of the seawall, so it's a segment is about 40 meters long, but that is not the most complete part of the seawall, and some of the rock structure is not there, and therefore you can see that it's rather dilapidated. And in terms of the heritage value, is relatively low. And for this section, well, at the work site, in terms of the works, is a very critical location as far as the works are concerned. And here you can see for the yellow part here, that's Harcourt Gardens site, and the red dots above is where the fragmented seawall is found. So at present, for the construction that is taking place is a top-down approach. So for these remains, they are not at the surface structure. Basically, for the top level or the top layer is about 4.6 PhD and or MPD, and in the future is about is at about the top ventilation level. And if we were to keep these remains, then the station will have to be redesigned, and also the changes will not be simple. We can show you the pictures here. Well, for the two green parts, they are the existing alignment of the MTRCL. One is the Chin Wan line, the other one is the Island line, and the middle part is the existing Harcourt Garden site. And well, the excavation then discovered the fragmented seawall, but then on both sides, as we have the MTR lines, and therefore we first have to construct some top level support, and then after the slabs have been removed, then you will have to dig down, and then further down, if there are further remains, then after doing the record, they will be removed, and then we will have to continue with the construction, and we will have to continue to provide further support to that. And for the red box, you can see that without the support, then both MTR lines will be affected.
咁經過討
After discussion and study, and having looked at the remains, we agreed that there should be a detailed recording. We took photographs. We also examined historical pictures, and then the AMO further required that some of the blocks of the seawall should be kept for reuse and appropriate interpretation in the future, so that the public would understand the meaning behind it, the history behind it, as well as the location. So the conclusion is that the heritage watch there has been done in line with the requirements, like the EIA as well as the permit. In fact, the preservation has been carried out in line with the terms set out in the permit or the license given. Of course, when the remains were discovered, in terms of the reporting, perhaps it could have been enhanced. Maybe the Deputy Secretary can brief you on the latest position concerning the reporting mechanism. On this occasion, yes, the watch has been carried out in line with all the requirements. I mean, the archaeological watching brief has been carried out in line with all the requirements. But still, it has attracted quite a lot of public attention. So perhaps in terms of the reporting, we can further enhance it. Let's take a look at the existing practice. Currently, for the progress of archaeological projects, it is reported to the AAB at AAB meetings under the agenda item, Matters Arising and Progress Report. Whenever there are important findings, then we'll have a dedicated agenda item, and there will be a dedicated report to the AAB. Of course, in the case of important archaeological findings and in relation to matters of great concern to the public, we'll arrange such visits for AAB members. We suggest that in the future there should be enhanced measures. Of course, we will make recommendations to the AAB, and we'll check with the AAB to see if there are further comments on our recommendations. They include the following. Generally speaking, we have a report during the meetings. In the future, when we are notified of archaeological findings, we would look at the case of the proponents and the expert. Before we agree with them, we would inform the AAB. In other words, the AMO, before informing the proponent of any agreed treatment, the AAB will have the chance to look at the findings. We also hope that for projects requiring an EIA, heritage-related chapters will be extracted for the AAB's early consideration. Now, for the public, currently the public may go to the websites of the AAB and the AMO to have a look of the AAB papers. Now, after the archaeological experts have completed the archaeological reports, all of them will be deposited with the AMO's library for public viewing. In the future, we'd like to enhance the measures. In other words, the completed archaeological reports will not just be deposited with our library, but they will also be uploaded onto the website of the AMO for public viewing. And when we have archaeological discoveries, despite the completion of the finalization of the report, and if it is of special interest, the AMO will upload the papers for the purpose of notifying the AAB so that the public will have an understanding of it. We've also made reference to the District Council's views. Currently, in relation to archaeological findings, we do not make an effort to inform the District Councils. If archaeological discoveries of special interest are found, even if the final reports have not yet been completed by the archaeologists, of course, when the report is completed, we can of course submit it to the DC for information. Even before the report is ready, the notification papers or information notes circulated to AAB will also be sent to the District Council to facilitate their awareness of the item. Thank you. The floor is now open to members for questions. I would suggest that we have 5 minutes each, covering both members' questions as well as the answers from the administration. Dr. K.K. Kwok, Mr. Kenneth Chen, Mr. Chen Kin-po will speak in that order. K.K. Kwok. Mr. Chairman, at Harcourt Garden at Admiralty, at first we thought there was the battery. I think this is a warning to the government. Had it not been for the enthusiasts who have disclosed the information in papers belonging to the AAB, the public would not have known about it. In relation to the preservation of heritage, I think it is a black box operation, and the government hasn't done anything by way of gatekeeping. Just now, Mr. Ming from the administration told us that this is the sea wall, but then it is over a century old. He doesn't think that it is worth our effort to preserve it. Well, according to this logic, all the historical remains in Greece, etc., all of them should have been abandoned. In fact, the Colosseum in Athens, the Pantheon, etc., they are all broken remains. And according to your logic, they should all have been sort of left to go into disrepair. In Hong Kong, our history can be said to be long, but it is not a short history. If we are able to get anything that can mark the history of Hong Kong, then they are among the small number of remains. The Queen's Pier has been dismantled, the Star Ferry clock tower has gone. Now we have got this sea wall fragment, which has over a century's history. Now the government is saying that we shouldn't keep it, we should just let it go. I understand that excavation is still ongoing. I'm not too sure about the Wellington battery. I think what we have been told is that according to the archaeological report, it is said that it cannot be confirmed that the Wellington battery is there. I don't know how the archaeological discovery will be carried out. We are racing with time. The MTRCL is still digging and digging. You are watching. If they do it quicker than you, then it is very simple. They outpace you and then everything will be removed. And before you can carry out any monitoring, damage would have been done, and then we don't know what we can do. And thirdly, of course, the administration has sent an expert through the AMO to watch it, but the public cannot judge as to whether the consultant appointed by the government has got sufficient resources and manpower, and whether she is entirely unbiased in the preservation of the archaeological remains or historical remains. But of course, probably the expert will say that this is what I have found, and it's up to the government to set out the policy to keep it or not. To me, I think this is a warning signal, but I'm not confident whether it be the Harcourt Garden or elsewhere, how the government is going to do its utmost to set our mind at ease so that we know that the historical remains will be retained. Had it not been disclosed, had it not been leaked, probably the government would just cover it up and then no one would have known about it. So it is really worrying. I think you need to understand that for monuments and historical sites, if you don't set out with preservation in mind, then you can have dismantled anything. I think the SARG has a poor record of discarding whatever it can discard. I think the government's attitude is heartbreaking. Who would like to answer this question? Mr. Y. Well, our expert, she applied for a license, and in fact, as the Deputy Secretary has said, it was vetted by the AAB, so it wasn't the government alone that made a decision. The AAB vetted the application for the license. In the watching brief, and in fact, in the license application process, she set out clearly what she would do. And in fact, she was empowered to tell the MTRCL that when antiquity was discovered or supposed antiquity was discovered, works should be suspended to allow her to have a good look and examine it. For the sea wall, well, the EIA report has already mentioned this. And in fact, the EIA report also mentioned the Wellington Battery, and the EIA report is in the public domain. And our expert has come to a judgment for the seawall in previous reclamation projects and in the recent railway projects. It has already undergone substantial damage, and the preservation value is low. I want to invite Julie, our expert, to tell us the on-site observations and give you the details about what she has done. Julie, would you like to supplement?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to point out that seawalls are quite common in Hong Kong, and they have been built from the earliest colonial times, 1841 ongoing. In this case, we knew there was going to be a seawall, or we expected it. Also, the Wellington Battery, we had understood that it at this location. Unfortunately, the previous developments have impacted whatever is left to such a great extent that we don't even have 1 meter segment of the seawall which is preserved to the top. The entire top of the seawall has been removed, and during this process, probably the Wellington Battery had been removed as well. So we have a fragment of a seawall, a maximum height of 3 meters, and the foundation. This is the only thing that we have left, and basically, when we look at the significance of this finding, we have to say that. First of all, it's a seawall. It's quite common in Hong Kong. They were built to be functional, to present a clean shore for hygienic reasons. The seawall has no separate association to any historical event or any significance. The function of the seawall, of this particular seawall, finished already in 1902. When a new reclamation, yet again, a new seawall was built out towards the sea. So when we talk about authenticity, it's already been cut. It doesn't have the full range of seawall. Its function is lost. Secondly, the preservation of it is so poor that we only have bits of it, just it is no longer in a setting, and so the only thing that remains is the location of it, and so in that sense it's not really worth preserving.
We need to respect the public view. We respect the public's monitoring, but of course we have to respect the experts' advice as well. Dr. Kenneth Chen, Mr. Chairman, had it not been for the media reports, probably we have to wait until the AMO or the administration inform us in the form of a regular report to the AAB at one of the regular meetings. So, on the one hand, I welcome the government's remedial measure. You take the matter seriously. You try to enhance the mechanism. I understand that in terms of the preservation of our heritage, there is still a lot of room for improvement. I have a number of specific questions about the details. On the 25th of September, when the seawall was discovered, all the way until the 26th of September, the AMO experts, as well as this expert who is with us today, there was a site visit. And then in early October, there was another site visit. And then on the 1st of November, AAB members were invited to go to the site to have a look. In that period of time, I want to know whether work was suspended. I want to know whether there was any adjustments to the work related so as to facilitate the archaeological work. And my second question is, for the expert here, as well as the AMO staff, I want to know whether you have talked to the MTRCL to ask them to stop certain procedures in their work so as to facilitate your work. And then my third question is, before the enhancement, it seems that the AAB at most is informed and given a report. I want to know whether in the past the AAB had missed the opportunity to pay a site visit to the archaeological discoveries. If you do have such, can you cite some examples? Allow me to answer the questions briefly. Well, the preservation value is not high in relation to the seawall. Therefore, according to our mechanism, we only finish first before we report to the AAB. In the presentation, we have made it very clear that should we find anything of significance, the AMO will report to the AAB very soon. As to the second and the third questions, as to whether we missed anything in the past, maybe Mr. Ming can answer the question. On the 25th of September, we were notified. On the 26th, we went there with the archaeological expert to have a discussion. It was only in early October that we decided that we should make a record to preserve it and it should be acceptable preservation. We also said that we could keep the rocks for exhibition and interpretation in future. In the course of it, Ms. Vandenberg carried on with her examination, observation, and recording. In the course of it, we did not find any disturbance that would obstruct her monitoring or recording work. It was in early November. Together with AAB, as well as the Hong Kong U and Hong Kong BU experts, we paid a site visit, and then we had to fill it back. At that time, MTRCL told us that it was a matter of the carrying out of the works. As we have said, we have the two rail lines, the Island Line as well as the Chunwan Line. So they had to reinforce it, and therefore they had to fill it backfilling it. But then the recording and other treatment carried on. Another question was whether in the past there was any similar cases with the AAB.
發現嘅話呢
If there is an important discovery, we will certainly invite the AAB members to conduct a site visit. For example, at Kai Tak, there was the discovery of the Longjun Bridge, and we invited the AAB to conduct a site visit. As for less important discovery, we report to the AAB through an update report. Thank you. The next is Mr. Chan Kin-fo. According to the paper, the professionals of the AAB and also the archaeological experts of the MTRC did talk to each other, and they agreed that it was just part of a 19th century seawall. It wasn't part of the Wellington battery. And in fact, the seawall had been substantially damaged. Now, archaeology is a profession, and we should respect the archaeological expert. We shouldn't have the doubt that the MTRC is going to cover the matter up. But the handling of the case by the MTRCL is not desirable, in the sense that if there is any suspected discovery, the news should be made known to the public. Instead of letting the media discovering that and then tell the public. I want to know whether it was normal for you not to disclose that suspected discovery, and in fact, what is the normal practice, and what will you do in the future? According to the archaeological expert, this is only part of the seawall, and it has been damaged, and it is relatively low value. But it is located at a critical location of the works. It's therefore proposed that it should be recorded by photography, drawing, and written description. I see the blocks rather intact. Is it possible to dig up these blocks and then keep them, and then consider this reinstate them, or rather reinstating them in a museum? Now, concerning the requirement to make disclosure, in the Deputy Secretary's PowerPoint, she explained that the handling of the discovery of the seawall was in compliance with existing procedure. As for discovering something which is not of high archaeological value, there is no requirement for public announcement. As for the preservation of the blocks, we've preserved about 20 of these blocks. Further excavation may yield more blocks. The MTRCL has already kept these blocks. As for its display and interpretation, the MTRCL and the AMO will try to discuss and find a solution. Any further questions? Mr. Chan. No more questions. Any more questions from members? Yes, Ms. Sit-ho. Mr. Chairman, apart from the administration's paper, there is also a paper by Maud MacDonald. I find one paragraph interesting, and that is 11.6.1. Now, it is said that there is in Admiralty, there were various kinds of buildings. I noticed that there were two barracks. One is the Wellington Barracks, and the other is the Victoria Barracks. And they have been turned into Pacific Place, or part of it, and people like to go there. earlier on, there were cannons recovered when the government department digs up a road and found has found some antiquities, and of course they will report that. But I think there may be a kind of competition, in particular in the projects of a private site. Would there be any competition between preservation versus the implementation of the project? And is there any notification mechanism? Say, if a private developer in conducting works has found something, then does the private developer has the obligation to notify the AMO or the administration? Now let the bygones be bygones. They are really water under the bridge. But what about those in the future? Perhaps the Deputy Secretary can explain to you once again the notification mechanism. Now we do have the legislation, including the EIAO. There is the EIA report, and the EIA report requires the heritage impact assessment. And in doing heritage impact assessment, there is also the archaeological watch or the archaeological watching brief. Now, in this case, in May 2011, the MTRCL appointed its archaeological expert, and the expert had already made a proposal to the AAB on her proposal, and the AMO then issued a license. And once the license was given, the archaeological expert has always been in the field to monitor whether there is any discovery, archaeological discovery, and if there is, then she will have to report to the AMO. That is the protection mechanism. It applies to we have already adopted this mechanism on the MTRCL. This is the archaeological watching brief. Mr. Chairman, my question is very simple. Now, the MTRC project requires an EIA, but as for other private developments, do you have the same mechanism? Do you apply this to private developments as well? My understanding is not. Now, if there is a private development, then they just apply to the buildings department for plan approval, and that's the end of the story, and they can go ahead and start building. Now, the EIA requirement is based on the law. Whether it's public works or private project, they have to comply with the EIAO. Now, if the project is not governed by the EIAO, because the EIAO has designated projects, and if it doesn't fall within the definition of designated project, it's still under the A&M ordinance. So does it mean that in a private development, somebody will be on site to keep watch? Perhaps Mr. Ming can explain the requirement on private development. If it is a designated project, even if it is just a private project, it still have to conduct an EIA. And when it comes across the handling of cultural heritage, including the requirement for archaeological watching brief, that will be conducted. But if it is not under the EIAO, then under the A&M ordinance, there is a provision which says that if there is any discovery of antiquities or suspected discovery, a report has to be made to the administration. Well, if the Pacific Place is not a private project, if it doesn't report to you, how can you enforce the law? the law says that even if it is a suspected discovery, a report has to be made. Otherwise, it is in breach of the law. I know that's written in the law, but how can you enforce it? If it is by a private developer, you get nobody on the site. How can you make sure that they report to you? I don't think they can answer my question. You have to think about it. In particular, in the central and western district, there are a lot of redevelopments going on. And there may be some antiquities underground. The administration has to be far-sighted in dealing with private development, which is not a designated project. Now, I've already said that we've already published a list. In fact, in our two previous geological survey, we identified 207 sites. The AMO and the works departments are monitoring the situation. But if these are not found outside, if these are found outside the survey, they are really exceptional. As for the possible archaeological sites, they are really known beforehand. And if works will be conducted, then the authority can keep watch on that. Now, Chairman, now to facilitate our monitoring, will we be given the same map of the 207 sites? Can you show us the map? As for the location of these sites, they are available in the internet. And sometimes we may need to amend the drawings or plans. You can also obtain information from the reference library of the AMO. Thank you. Well, we have spent quite some time on this item. Well, I'll draw a line there. May I thank the administration and also the representatives for coming and answering the questions. AOB now. If there is nothing under this, then the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.